The May 2nd, 2024 meeting of the City of Raleigh Design Review Commission. That's my first time saying that because we, as of this meeting, are officially now the Design Review Commission. My name is Will Gaskins. I'm the chair of the commission. The City of Raleigh Design Review Commission is a public body appointed by the City Council that exercises both advisory and quasi-judicial functions. The Design Review Commission's responsibilities relate to zoning and other land use matters, as well as visual quality and aesthetic characteristics of the city. So on today's agenda, it includes requests for design alternates from the city's Unified Development Ordinance. When hearing requests for design alternates, the commission sits as a quasi-judicial body and conducts an evidentiary hearing on the request. That means it's like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this commission must make its decisions. The commission's decisions are constrained by the standards in the city's ordinance and the facts presented at the hearing. The commission hears and considers evidence presented at the hearing and applies the standards set forth in state law and the city's ordinance. The commission must base its decision upon competent material and substantial evidence presented at the hearing. If you'll be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinion. This meeting is open to the public and everyone is welcome to watch. However, participation in the evidentiary hearing is limited. Parties have rights to participate fully. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Witnesses may testify as to facts to which they're competent to testify, so long as those facts relate to the legal standards. In addition, lay or non-expert witness testimony is limited to facts, not opinions. For certain topics, the commission needs to hear opinion testimony from expert witnesses. These topics include projections about impacts on property values and projections about impacts on traffic safety. So we will now begin with the first hearing on today's agenda. So that's DA 1 2024. Catherine.
I would just, I think you're going to use some alternates, so I'd state at the start for the applicant who all's voting. And by my math, you have 5 alternates here, and you can have 4 of them vote.
All right, so we typically do that by who's been an alternate the longest in terms of.
I did my math wrong. 3 of them vote.
We need 3 alternates to vote as regular members.
Well, let's just, hold on, let's just real quick. If you're a regular member, can you raise your hand? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, then you can get up to 9, so you can have 3 alternates vote.
But we only need 6 to vote, right?
So you can have, so your 9 is when you sit as a QJ body, you have 9 regulars. Any alternates can, 5 is the minimum required to approve a request.
I see.
Yeah. So you can have 3 of your alternates sit in.
Okay, I'm pulling up my list, but off the top of my head, I believe, Jason, you're probably one of the longer running alternates, right? Or you're an alternate, yeah. And then Saravi, I think you're next. Does that sound right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right.
And then Kat, I think that then would be,
They were the same.
Yep. You're the 2 newest members, right?
Yeah.
okay. Is everyone comfortable with Jason, Kat, and Sravia being our 3 voting members? Awesome. Did you catch that? Okay, now we'll move forward with design alternate case 1, 2024. Casey.
All right, this first case this evening is located at 914 Dowling Road, at the southwest corner of Pool Road and Dowling Road. The property is zoned commercial mixed use, 3 stories, conditional use, and is in the Special Highway Overlay District. The applicant is proposing to construct a 3-story general building for use as a self-storage facility. The applicant is requesting 4 design alternates related to transparency, and they are to reduce the ground story transparency on the north building facade, for complete relief from the ground story transparency requirement on the east building facade, to reduce the second story transparency on the east facade, and to reduce the third story transparency on the east facade. Transparency is required for each side of the building facing a public street. So in this case, that's 2 of the sides of the building. A minimum of 33% transparency is required on the ground story, and a minimum of 20% transparency is required on each upper story. Here are the 2 findings that must be met to grant a design alternate for transparency. I'm available if you have any questions. Otherwise, we can turn it over to the applicant.
Sorry, I might have skipped this. Do we need to swear you in?
Yes.
Sorry. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the applicant will now present evidence and legal arguments in support of the request. As a reminder, any evidence and argument must focus on the applicable standards.
Good afternoon, Chair Gaskins and members of the Design Review Commission. My name is Ashley Honeycutt-Terrazas with Parker Poe here on behalf of the applicant. At this time, I'd like to ask that our updated application, presentation, case report, and supporting materials be accepted into the record.
So accepted.
Okay. We have 2 witnesses expected to testify. If the board wants to go ahead and swear them in now, our architect, Cleveland Pate, and landscape architect, Ken Thompson. And we also have our civil engineer here, Ross Massey, if there are any questions regarding the full plan. If you want to swear him in as well, in case we need his testimony, I'm happy to do that as well.
Sure, let's go ahead and
Swear him in. Okay.
Okay, so if you could state your name and connection to the case, and then we'll do all 3 of you simultaneously.
Ross Massey with Swift Partners, civil engineer for the project.
Ken Thompson, landscape architect on the project.
Cleve Pate, I'm the architect on the project.
And your addresses as well, sir.
6013 Fordland Drive, Raleigh, NC.
424 South Dawson Street, Raleigh.
510 South Wilmington, Raleigh.
Awesome. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so as Casey mentioned, we have 4 design alternates we're requesting this afternoon for 914, the project at 914 Dowling Road. And this slide shows the site and the surrounding context. Again, that's 914 Dowling Road. It's about 2.8 acre site zoned CX3CU. It's across the road from a couple of banks, the credit union, ag credit union site on Pool Road, and then backs up to and is across from some large lot single-family residential parcels and a mobile home park, most of which are in Wake County. And as you can see, the site is just to the east of the Beltline, I-440. And this slide shows the current site plan, also in your packet. Just again to remind everyone that it's a 3-story heated and cooled self-storage facility with a basement that fronts Old Pool Road and Dowling Road. And the blue outline there is the building, the yellow is the outdoor amenity area, and that green there highlighted is a tree conservation area, so TCA. So like I said, we're seeking 4 design alternates from these provisions of the UDO to allow on the northern facade, that one facing Old Pool Road, just for the ground floor. We're meeting transparency on the 2nd and 3rd floors, but on the ground floor, we're seeking a transparency reduction there, and then also on that eastern facade facing that smaller street, Dowling Road, the longer facade, seeking relief for the 3 stories, and again, that As our witnesses will explain in a moment, there are a few reasons behind these requests. The required transparency hinders the building design, an inefficient building with wasted space, and the transparency diminishes the look of security of the building, as our witnesses will discuss in a moment. And we're prioritizing transparency on the corners, which are the most visible elements for passersby, and mitigating the reduced transparency through several design elements, including, again, those transparent corners, center windows, building materials, design elements, and landscaping. These are the required findings. The approved design alternate consistent with the intent of the transparency requirements. And the street-facing building facade utilizes other architectural, artistic, or landscape treatments to create visual interest to offset the reduction in transparency. And will present competent material and substantial evidence through our expert witnesses that each design alternate should be granted. So at this point, I would like to call our first witness, Mr. Cleve Pate, who was just sworn in. Cleve, could you please state your name, address, education, and experience for the commission?
Cleve Pate, G. Cleveland Pate, PLC, Architecture Planning. I'm a registered architect, NC State. I've been in business for private practice for 20-plus years.
And design many similar buildings?
Many similar type buildings to this, yes. Many in front of this, the committee, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
At this time, I'd like to tender Cleve as an expert in architecture and building design. Okay. And Cleve, could you state your role in this project?
I'm the project architect.
And can you explain the design goals that are driving the transparency request that we're seeking?
Yeah, the design goals in terms of transparency are generally, initially, security concerns as clients who rent spaces want to feel that they're are safe. And so providing excess transparency sometimes on the building is at odds with these goals.
Okay. And a number of storage facilities that have transparency maintain that through faux facades with backlit windows. Did you evaluate that here?
We evaluated that and kind of dismissed that as a viable option because it's inefficient in terms of the building. And so we looked for other options in terms of getting glass that did look into the building where we could, and also looking at the building in terms of adding other elements that we thought would meet those goals.
Okay. And these are the interior layouts for each floor, just to show the interior design. Are those units on storage units on both facades that we're seeking relief for?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes. As you can see when you look at the plan, we use a double-loaded corridor in here for efficiency. We try to put our transparency on the exterior of the building at different locations. So it becomes really more of a security and a efficiency element in terms of where we try to put our transparency.
Okay, and this slide shows our elevations and transparency for again, that northern facade, which faces Old Pool Road. Can you walk through the transparency we're providing?
Yes, on this facade, we're using for ground floor. We have a problem on the building in terms of grade issues. We have a 13-foot drop over 137 feet. So even though we have and this will apply to as we go and look at the other facade as well. When we look at the facade, even though there's a basement here, the problem we have here is that our grading is actually above the first floor level, which makes it very difficult for us to put any transparency on that level. As you can see, we did get it in the middle of the building on that first level. We try to put a large piece of glass there, but if we chose to not put any on the right side as you look at that elevation because of proportions of the building. That it would not, it didn't look as good because of the grading issue there.
Okay.
So that was driving the whole design on that lower level.
And can you describe some of the architectural features you've included to offset the reduced transparency and create visual interest?
Yeah, well, what we tried to do is we've tried to get, if you look at the elevation, and this is something we've done on other buildings as well, we've tried to include a lot of elements in terms of brick, different colors, brick and architectural block colors. We use a architectural horizontal panel, which is a very nice panel. And you see, we've tried to we've gotten as much transparency as we can on the ends of the building, on each corner, and in the center of the building, because we felt like it gave the most impact from the roadway on there. We're also doing different things in terms of color. We do at the top where we have some ephes trim, but we have limited most of that to just trim elements. So we have a number of bump outs. We've tried to do change in planes, change in color, to give visual interest to the building that where we may have lacked in some transparency. We've tried to make up for that in other elements of the building.
And this meets the UDO's blank wall requirements.
Yes, the blank wall, that's one thing. We're not asking for anything in terms of blank wall because I think we've gone beyond meeting all the blank wall requirements with different materials, with bump outs, et cetera.
And this slide shows our elevations and transparency for the eastern facade facing Dowling Road. Can you walk through the transparency we're providing there?
Yeah, well, we've tried to do from an elevation standpoint, from the Pool Road to Dowling Road, we have a very similar design concept here. Is that we've tried to get, and again, it's, if you can tell, our grade here is above our first floor level. Therefore, that kept us from getting glazing on the first floor level because we would only be able to do something high, which was a security issue on the building. So what we did was to go again and did the corner elements, which we felt like, and the center glass, which we felt like it gave us the most impact in terms of the building. And then, of course, we did the very same thing in that we are changing up the facade as you go down the facade with different materials. And it's very high quality materials that we're using on this. So we changed up where we've got bump outs, we've got shadow lines, we've got a change in materials, a change in color. So we felt like we're making up for anything we could on the building to try to get the most interest we could in the building.
Thanks, Cleve. I have no further questions for this witness, and I tender him to the commission. If y'all have questions for him.
Thank you.
No, they might have questions for you.
Oh, sorry.
Does the commission have any questions at this point?
Should we just wait to the end to ask
Yeah,
questions?
absolutely.
Okay, then I will call the next witness, Mr. Ken Thompson. Ken, can you please state your name, address, education, and experience for the commission?
Yes, Ken Thompson. I'm with J. Davis Architects. I'm Director of Development Planning. Excuse me. Had a cold earlier this week. I've been practicing for 30 years, 27 of them with J. Davis Architects. I'm a registered landscape architect in North Carolina.
At this time, I'd like to tender Ken as an expert in landscape architecture and site design. Okay. So these next slide show the landscape plan for the site, and then I also have I printed out some copies of it for the commission, just so everybody can, you're not squinting at your computers. I'll hand these up to the clerk. If you could pass these out. Thank you. So Ken, this is the landscape plan for the site, which the commission also has in front of them on paper. Can you explain the impact of the planned landscaping on the views and visual interests of the Old Pool Road facades?
Sure. As you're all aware, the UDO requires self-storage facilities, Section 724E7, are required to provide a 15-foot C2 street protective yard between the sidewalk and the building along both Old Pool Road and Dowling Road. The street protective yard is a mix of large shade trees, understory trees where overhead lines are present, and evergreen shrubs. This vegetated buffer would be the visual experience along the public streets for passerbys. The plan here depicts slightly exceeds the required minimums for UDO planting requirements. One other thing to point out, there's the right-of-way is large up in this area. This is the right-of-way line. And our street tree plantings are along the back of curb, and our buffer plantings are along the right-of-way line. So there's a separation between the two. And there is some existing vegetation in that space. So this is a rendering of the building elevations with plants depicted at mature height. This is Old Pool Road. As I just mentioned, this is going to be the curb level, and then this is the grade at the site, at the building. Sorry, I lost my spot. The building is about 35 feet high above that grade, and as you can see, the trees and evergreen shrubs, these trees will be about 6 to 10, will vary 6 to 10 feet at installation, but obviously grow much larger at heights of 20 to 30 and even up to 50 feet. It's also been designed, the site layout has been designed to place the vehicular parking and the loading areas at the rear of the site. Go back. Forgot to point that out before. So with this being the primary street, we have all the service areas and everything back behind the building, so they're not experienced by pedestrians on the public street.
And those,
Anything else?
yeah, those are all the questions that I have for Ken. And if the commission has any questions for him or Cleve, we are.
Okay.
And then do you want, I was planning to let y'all ask questions and then I'll do my conclusion. Those are all the questions that I have from witnesses.
I have a question for Ken. It's really simple. The area that is currently naturally vegetated between the overhead power line and the Old Pool Road and Pool Road street scape, what are the plans for those? The vegetation in that area, in that triangle?
Vegetation, it's a mix of pines and hardwoods.
Uh-huh. And are those going to remain?
Yes.
Will they be protected during the construction?
That I have to ask. Is tree protection fence required on those? Apologize, I wasn't prepared for that one.
Sorry.
Yeah, so tree protection will basically surround the limits of disturbance.
Uh-huh.
And so that area will be
Outside.
protected during construction.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
Hey, Adam, that area you're talking about, it's the conservation area, is that what you meant?
No, it's that empty triangle on the plan between the street trees along Old Pool Road and Pool Road and the
that's
tree
in the right of way.
conservation area.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
yeah, it's
Okay.
outside of the property generally.
that is there.
But that is also pretty heavily wooded right now? Okay, so it'd almost be like an extension of the conservation area, right? Okay.
Could we flip back to the building plans?
Which one specifically?
The plans, floor plans? And I don't have a question, I just wanted to see him again. Actually, I do have a question. So, on the elevation, there's glass in the middle of the building on the east side. Are those storage units that I'm seeing in the middle of the building? So, east side, I believe, is planned south here.
Which level are you talking about?
Level 2 and 3.
Level 2? Yes, there's storage units behind the opening there at the
Okay.
glass.
So you do have glass in the middle
Yes.
with storage units behind
And the
it.
storage units are, what they're showing is like a faux type door that you're seeing in the background on that.
Okay.
So you don't see the actual storage unit.
So stair on the north plan, lower right corner, that's a stair?
On the,
Level 2.
as far on this, there's 2 stairs in the building. There's one on this, you're looking at the plan on the left side, there's one in the upper right-hand corner on there.
Okay, where'd you say the other one is? The upper
The
right-hand
other one is
corner?
on the left, as you're looking at the plan on the left side of the building, up past the center of the building. You see it says stairs there, and there's another
do
stair up
not.
in the right-hand corner of the building.
Yep, I got it.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, any other questions from the commission at this time?
Yeah, I think it was said earlier in the documentation that one of the reasons that the east side can't have windows is because it's largely under grade level. Grade level only comes up at the most 4 feet on the one corner. I mean, I'm curious as to why windows couldn't be placed above grade level and still work. Was that tried, or?
Are you speaking to the east facade?
Yeah. Yeah, what it is you're looking at the plan there, if you look at the right-hand side of the plan, the grade is, one thing too is, keep in mind, is that there's a very low floor-to-ceiling height in these storage buildings. Now, there's 11-foot floor-to-floor height on the first floor, then the rest of the floors are 10-foot floor-to-floor. So when we say if we take off 4 feet, say we've got a grade situation where we're losing 4 feet, then we only have a total of 6 feet from that point to the finished floor of the next level. And part of that is the actual structure of that floor. So we don't have much space between where the grade is coming in at the building and the bottom of the structure on that floor. So in that, we felt like putting a small piece of glass in there was a security issue, number one, because it would be so close grade-wise on there. And then proportionally on the buildings, it didn't seem to make sense because we need to do something on the other side as well. We just didn't think it looked as good on the building. So that's kind of where that came from. And that's where we tried to expand the glass on the corners and the center to get the most glass we could in those areas. We felt like that was the most impact on the building. That was the thinking.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think you're up again.
So members of the Design Review Commission, I would like to quickly summarize the evidence on each design alternate finding. So addressing the 2 transparency elements. The first finding, the intent of the transparency is to provide transparency and visual interest for both pedestrians and occupants, which our project provides. As an initial matter, the intent of the transparency requirements for occupants is not really applicable here. The planned storage facility will have very few occupants who will only come and go to drop off and retrieve their things from a secure facility. And it's not a facility that should have very much interaction with pedestrians. Customers come in cars to the facility to drop off and retrieve their stored items. But to the extent the pedestrians walk past the facility, as Mr. Pate testified, the provided facade design, the materials, the color changes, the glazing, and key locations provides the visual interest. And as Mr. Thompson testified, the site landscaping will provide visual interest as well. And again, as Mr. Pate testified, this is a building that must convey security to customers, and transparency impedes that, which is why the design team chose to provide visual interest in other ways. And even so, to that second finding, we provided windows on the corners and in the center of the building to look into these fake hallways on the eastern and northern facades. We've also utilized different materials and material changes on the northern and eastern facades, as Mr. Pate described. And finally, we plan to provide attractive trees and landscaping between the sidewalk and the building, as well as an outdoor amenity area along the northern facade versus not having like parking or anything over there. And the windows, materials, and landscaping will provide visual interest to the secure storage facility. And to sum up, we presented competent material and substantial evidence to meet the design alternate elements, and we respectfully request that the commission approve our design alternate requests. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to confirm, I don't see any members of the public here to speak. Staff, anything further? Casey, anything further from you? Okay, we'll now. I have another question. Okay, one more question.
For Ken. So, Ken, I recognize that the intent here is that you're using landscape for visual interest above and beyond the required plantings. I just wondered if you could point out on the landscape plan what plantings are above and beyond and what are required, so we kind of get an idea of what plantings have been applied to offset.
My statement there was that we exceeded the required rate slightly, like just a couple plants over.
Okay. Can you point out those plants on the plan, or is it just kind of generally a couple plants over?
They're included in the buffers, the buffer plantings here and here.
And are those trees or shrubs?
Yes. On the plant list, for the evergreens, we have cryptomeria, trees, we have, I'm going to read them in the plant list legend, so.
Yeah, okay.
But
so I'm looking at the
hackberry,
plant list. I'm just wondering which ones are above and beyond the regulatory required plants.
I would have to go back and look detailed for you on that.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to close the evidentiary portion of the hearing and open it up for commission comment and discussion. So would someone like to kick us off? Jason?
I mean, I'm not seeing anything on that planting plan, since that was what we just talked about, that shows, anything that goes above the required. And I may be missing it, but as I look through it, I don't see anywhere where the landscaping has tried to offset anything visually of the building. That said, I think that we need to be careful in all cases of hiding buildings with landscaping. Our landscaping is supposed to accentuate and add to our buildings in our city, not just hide them. And again, that doesn't seem to be the case here, because I don't see any plantings that go highly above that. Anybody else have a idea of that?
Yeah, so I would generally agree. Along Dowling Road is where you're really seeing this building. The main views are along Dowling Road, and everywhere that you could plant a plant between that building and Dowling Road, there is a plant. May not be above the required plantings, but I don't know. It's not clear how you would provide more visual interest with the landscape as shown here in that location. There could be some other strategies.
Unless you pulled the building further from the street.
Yeah, that's right.
I think just for folks who may or may not be familiar with this part of town, right across the street's the entrance to Oakview Park. It's actually a really beautiful part of town, and the institutional buildings that are there are kind of pulled pretty far back from the road. There's quite a bit of landscaping in all cases, and it's really the first thing you see when you get off the highway on Pool Road. So it does feel like a very visible and significant site from that perspective to me.
Yeah. You know, I was saying the same thing, Matt. However, the grade and the existing vegetation probably completely block the view, but I do agree that it's really a visible location and will continue to be more and more visible in the future. That was part of the question I had about that kind of empty triangle. You can kind of see on Google Street View that there are quite a few trees there. So I don't know. It's hard for. It is a 3-story building, though. So maybe you can't see it.
So I was looking at the grading plan too. I think that landscaping, the elevation that the landscape architect showed really gives you an idea of how high the road is compared to how quickly that grade drops off on the north side. So the request for the relief on that ground story of the north facade doesn't really give me too much pause. I think it's the eastern side that I think we should have a little more discussion on. So it's a really long facade, very, very repetitive. And I think, the comments about security and efficiency of the building, I mean, we've got a unified development ordinance for a reason. And it's got rules for a reason. And I think the blank wall requirement is a completely different intent than transparency. And so the question in my mind is the landscape going to offset what we think is appropriate for that lack of transparency?
If that's a question, my opinion on that question would be, my answer to that question would be no, because it's doing what it has to do and no more than what it has to do. And that's not saying that I feel like the landscape should do more. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I feel like the landscape plan has done very well with what it has been given and in the space it's been given. But I think it was said on the, I'm reading it, this is a self-storage facility where normal transparency goals do not apply. And I don't really understand that. This is the UDO, they apply. They apply to all buildings within this area in this use. So I'm not sure where that really comes from. To me, it does apply. What the ground floor looks like on that facade is important. The grade is not significantly obstructing that side. And there are plenty of highly secure buildings that have glazing in them. I've done some myself, and there are plenty of films if you are concerned about, safety when it comes to glass. But regardless, I don't see that as a good argument whenever you've got, storage rooms locked up inside of a locked building. So you have 2 layers there.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Dave and I, we're over here looking at the planting plan on the computers, being able to enlarge it. And it's not a realistic planting plan on that east facade. I mean, some of those plants are shown, trees are shown being planted less than 5 feet away from the edge of the building, which obviously is not going to work. So
Not good for the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if transparency is not something you want to do on that east facade, then you have to do something else. And doing the regulatory required plantings and shoving them all in at as tight a pace as possible isn't really doing something in addition, right?
And if there are any
yeah, and really, I mean, my opinion is if they can get to 15% transparency, they can get to 20%. Just because it becomes a little more inefficient, so be it.
And if you don't
There's
want to
ways
do the
it.
transparency, then you got to do something else, right?
Yeah, and what is that? I don't know, and we can't make that decision for them.
I think they probably are arguing that it's architectural interest with the different materiality of the building facade.
Yeah, I mean, I would have a question as to whether, split face block next to brick with a 2 or 3 inch difference is as the UDO says, a substantial material change.
Yeah.
It's both masonry.
I think we'll open it back up in a second, but just acknowledging the conversation, and do want to also caution for the group as we're deliberating to stick to things that have been presented as part of the evidentiary hearing, as that's what we have to rule on. And then, do want to acknowledge that, I do see elements of, similar cases that we've heard before this commission in terms of feedback that we've given represented in some of the design decisions with this project. Now, that said, it looks very similar to many of the other cases that have come before us. So, any more questions or thoughts before we get some feedback?
I generally agree, but I would say this landscape is different than all of the other cases we've seen. The juxtaposition to the building. I mean, you've got trees here that are within less than 5 feet of the building that have 20-foot widths. I haven't seen that before. But other than that, I think you're right. Like the building design, totally.
Yeah, I also think compared to some of the other cases that we've seen, that long east facade is not as articulated as some of the other designs that we have approved. There's very little crenellation or articulation at the top of the building. It's just a very repetitive pattern of ephes, brick, and
So I
CMU.
also think it's much closer to the street than at least I've seen since I've been on the commission.
So to sum up here, the east face is where all of the concern is? Does that sound correct?
For me,
And especially the proximity of the planting and the building to the road.
The east and the north face are the only two that we've been allowed to see. I haven't even, they're not providing the others, but although they're not
Well, we
part
don't
of
have to
this,
rule on
you
those.
know,
Yeah, we don't have
thing, but
standing.
and if you look at
It
the
is one building.
requests on the case, I mean, I think 1 and 2 deal with the north facade, which I personally, open for discussion, I personally don't have any issue with. It's the third one that requests the reduction on the second and third story for the east facade.
Okay.
So we're hearing all this feedback, and
Just to open up the hearing again, if you want to maybe respond to
I
that.
think we're hearing all this feedback. Need to look at the landscaping, the proximity of the building, and maybe look at the articulation issues that you brought up. I did have the ones that have been approved here, but hear that this one is closer to the street. We want to look at the landscape in a little bit more, and so, just a second.
Could you actually flip through those ones that you just flipped through?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay. Okay.
And then that was before the design alternate
Yeah.
process, so that was back in.
And then can you flip back to the one that's being presented today? Yeah, I do not see the same quality in this one.
Yeah. So just like a point of, a suggestion, I would say. One thing that I think that from this plan view and the grading plan, we can kind of, with some confidence, generally understand what the view from Pool Road would be of this building. But I think in future cases, if we could get some kind of sections or rendering, 2-scale sections or rendering of those really important views from like Pool Road, that would really help us to understand how much of this building can we actually see from a place that has a lot of eyes on it. So I think it's probably not necessary for this one, but it certainly is helpful in helping us understand and make good decisions.
I would also push back on the notion that our goal with these reviews is to encourage applicants to make the same building over and over again. I think when you're considering an alternate, it's by nature a unique request, and it's on a unique site in a different place than all of those other buildings. And there's nothing to me that says it should look exactly like all those other buildings. So I'm actually bothered by the fact that it looks exactly like all of the other ones we've seen, even though it's a unique condition.
Same for the landscape.
Okay, Counselor. I think we're willing to proceed to a vote, but would just give you a chance here to either
Yeah,
ask
I
any
think we got
questions
some
or-
feedback, and if,
Yep.
if you're willing to continue it, we would request you continue it so we can continue to look at the landscape plan, the articulation, some of those suggestions that we got from the commission.
Okay, so confirming you would prefer to continue, and would you like any other feedback from the commission at this point?
I've been taking lots of notes, so I think I understand what the direction is. And thank you all so much for that feedback. And we would like the chance to take another look at some of these things and come back before you.
Do we have to pick a date?
Yeah, you need to say a date certain. I believe June 6th is the next date. Looking at Casey. Yeah.
You comfortable with June 6th?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do I need a motion on that?
No, you just need to state it's continued to June 6th.
Okay. This case will be continued to June 6th.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we will now call a evidentiary hearing for item DA 2, 2024 on today's agenda. Casey, if you will introduce this hearing.
All right, as you mentioned, this is case DA2 2024. The subject property is located at 2414 Wycliffe Road at the northeast corner of Wycliffe Road and Lake Boone Trail. The property is zoned commercial mixed use, 3 stories, and is in the Special Highway Overlay District. The property is improved with an existing shopping center, including several outbuildings. The applicant is proposing to construct a new service area or dumpster enclosure on the western portion of the property near Wycliffe Road. And this image here is showing you specifically the dumpster enclosure. The applicant is requesting one design alternate, and that is to locate the service area in front of the building, or in front of the existing buildings. The service area screening requirements dictate that service areas be located to the side or rear of buildings and be screened from adjacent properties and right-of-way. They must also be screened by a solid wall and gate at least 6 feet tall. There are 4 findings that must be satisfied in order to grant a design alternate for service area, landscaping, and screening requirements. I'm happy to answer any initial questions you may have, and we can turn it over to the applicant.
Any questions for staff while she's up? Okay, if the applicant will come forward. Applicant will now present evidence and legal arguments in support of the request. As a reminder, any evidence and argument must focus on the applicable standards. Before you begin, if you'll state your name and relation to the case.
Good afternoon, members of the commission. I'm pleased to say you've changed your name. I think that's appropriate because that appearance commission just didn't work anymore. So thank you for that. My name is Isabel Maddox. My address is 3700 Glenwood Avenue, Suite 500, Raleigh 27612. I'm here today on behalf of York Properties, which is really the manager of the Lake Boone Shopping Center. And with me today are Peter Wentz and Corey Bates, our architects, and Jose Rodriguez, our landscape architect. And I'll be calling on at least 2 of those to testify. So if you want to swear those in, at this point we can, or we can wait till I call them.
Let's just do it as they come up.
Okay, great. As Casey indicated, we are requesting a design alternate for a trash enclosure that is going to serve some new buildings with an older shopping center. And the trash enclosure does not comply with UDO because It is located within what the city considers the front of the building. We disagree with what the architectural front of the building is, and we'll have a lot to say about that. So I don't know if you're familiar with this shopping center on Lake Boone Trail. It's not too far from Rex Hospital, Lake Boone and Wycliffe. This is Wycliffe Road right here. And the city considers this the front of the building to be the Wycliffe frontage. And we don't necessarily, this is the building right here. We don't really see that as the front along Wycliffe. We think the front is actually what faces back into the shopping center right there. But city has ways it determines things, and we got to go with that. So we're coming in for a design alternate to address the location of this dumpster. The dumpster proposal is right here. And interestingly, already there's a dumpster enclosure for the McDonald's right there. That satisfies the requirement because for the McDonald's frontage, this is their front yard. And so this dumpster is considered on the side of their property, even though that's probably not really the front of their building either from their point of view. But it'll be right there. I don't know if you've ever been to this shopping center, but there are a lot of restaurants there now. It gets very busy, particularly at lunchtime, but I think probably at dinner time as well. There are, I think, now 8 restaurants in the center and a food line. So there's a lot of activity. Also, this is the power easement, or utility easement that goes all the way this yellow right there. So you cannot put anything there. So just to give you a sense, this is what we consider the architectural front of the building that faces inward to the shopping center. The building is built, and I think at least 2 of the 3 tenants have moved in, or one still. I think the Butcher's Market is open, which is a grocery and cafe. They serve some food, and then Chicken Salad Chick, or Chic. Never sure how you pronounce that. Is the other tenant in place. Duck Donuts is coming. And there's a rear patio, and the rear patio, which we think is a great feature of this because it allows people to get their coffee, get their sandwich, get their lunch, and sit outside, enjoy a really great outdoor gathering space. And that's something we really want to protect here because we think it's a great benefit to citizens and to the community to have that available. And I think that sort of affects where this dumpster goes. Now, you saw where the dumpster's going to go. It's sort of where the entrance drive off of Wycliffe is. But it's tucked at sort of the end of a parking lot. And we propose a high-quality architectural enclosure as required. I think that there's going to be some elements of architecture that are a little bit better than required there. And importantly, there's going to be some significant landscaping there. And unlike the prior case where you said you didn't really want to screen the buildings out of view by landscaping, this is a service area, this is a dumpster, this is sort of a necessary evil for restaurants to have a dumpster close by. And so we think the more screening, the better when you're talking dumpster. And I'm going to get our landscape architect to come and tell you a little bit about exactly what he's proposing for his landscaping in this location. Mr. Rodriguez, can you tell him a little bit about your credentials, your background, just briefly?
Good afternoon. I'm Jose Rodriguez with Site Collaborative, landscape architect for the project.
And before you begin, if you state your address, and I'll swear you in.
1620 Hillsborough Street in Raleigh.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please proceed.
Okay. So the intent or our goal here is really not to just screen the dumpster, but also to tie it back to the existing landscape that's in that essentially new patio. And I think we've done that pretty efficiently here. The perimeter of the dumpster really We have some tall evergreens that will have a mature height of about 8 to 10 feet. I don't know if you guys want me to be specific about what the species
Talking about
is.
the arborvitae?
Yeah. So it's a tall and narrow evergreen. We can sort of really pack them in there. Maturity, 8 to 10 feet. We certainly didn't want it to feel like a green eyebrow around the dumpster, so we've softened the edges by including some lower ground covers and grassy perennials. In this case, we've got some panicum, some nacella, so these are, let's say, grasses. And included along the corners, let me see if this, so sort of here, 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 and here, just a few pops of color with camellias. We don't want to call too much attention to it because, well, it is a dumpster. And we've kept most of our landscape on this corner fairly low. So we have carex, which is a low evergreen sedge or ground cover. Because if you notice here, this line here represents our sight distance line. So trying to keep essentially visibility across White Cliff. We've also pulled in one large shade tree, and that's more to pull back from the existing patio. So feel like that certainly goes above and beyond what's required by code.
So what is the landscaping required around a dumpster enclosure under code?
It really doesn't specify any landscape, more just a 6-foot high wall.
So the enclosure is required, but the landscaping is not necessarily required.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And continuing on, I want to show you, right now, because 2 of these restaurants are open, and the dumpster they're using is behind this shopping center. So they're required to go all the way here to dump their trash, and that happens several times a day for each restaurant. And it takes a really long time. It's very not efficient, and as you probably know, restaurants have a really difficult time staffing, and this is requiring an employee to go a quarter of a mile lugging a big trash container to dump the trash several times a day for each of those restaurants. So we really need a more convenient location for them to be able to dispose of that waste. And I want to tell you a little bit about the traffic patterns here. I'm going to get Peter Wentz, our architect, to come and talk about this slide just a little bit. Peter, why don't you state your educational credentials and also we'll want to swear you in first, probably.
Good evening. My name is Peter Wentz. I'm a registered architect with New City. I've been working for about 10, 15 years at this point.
And your address?
1304 Hillsborough Street.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So, Peter, tell us a little bit about the traffic patterns and,
Sure. Yeah, so there's a lot going on in this diagram, but just the point is to show that this is a very busy shopping center. And so when we're looking at, when the UDO ruled that we couldn't locate the dumpster anywhere within this red hatched area, we started looking at other spots on the site. And so we were already eliminated from this yellow area due to a power line easement. And so we're left with only a few different areas. And so one spot highlighted in green here is the patio itself. We think because we renovated an existing building that was easily twice this size, if not more, even with the patio, we greatly reduced the impervious area. And, we very easily could have just not provided the patio at all, located the dumpster enclosure within there, and we would not even be here. But we feel like this patio is a great public service to the area. It's very close to the White Cliff Road there. And so we think it's a benefit to have it there, not just have a dump trash enclosure there. And this is also with sort of the boldness of these lines here, this is also a fairly busy intersection for traffic as they're coming and going.
So speaking, okay, so you see lots of traffic coming in and out and going in all directions here. So it's important to figure out where will this be safe? You got a big vehicle coming and emptying the dumpster, and let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Yep. And so another location we looked was sort of this side of the building here, also kind of a, no storefront on this side, might on some cases be a good location, but is also at this sort of major intersection or interior intersection of the shopping center. There's 4, lanes of traffic that merge there. Oftentimes there's a Chick-fil-A down here. The drive-through traffic sort of pokes out into this area here. I know I was there last Friday. There are cars kind of weaving around each other trying to get there. So either trying to get a trash truck or a staff member hauling a trash can down there does not seem like an opportune location for that. Coupled with that, you can sort of see them here. There are some old growth oak trees, I believe, that we maintained during the construction of this, or the renovation / construction of this new building. And so we'd obviously have to get rid of a decent number of those in order to construct it there. So with that, we're left with this area here, or it really could apply to any area really within the remaining parking lot. But again, we're still probably going to have to remove more parking than is our proposed location would require. We're still having staff kind of lug trash through a heavily trafficked area, regardless of where it goes. And there's also not a great approach for the trash truck itself to sort of have the room to, operate or maneuver in order to actually collect it.
So if they come here, tell us about how the trash truck will serve the dumpster.
Right, and so I'll at first say that this plan was approved by Raleigh Solid Waste Services when we originally applied for the permit. But with the with the construction of McDonald's site plan, they shifted this road a bit and actually made this a dead-end road before it was actually connected to this access road here. And so this is now a dead-end parking area. Fairly low traffic, fairly low, risk for employees or anyone. The trash truck can just come in, get it, back out, be done.
Thanks.
Yep.
And then, go ahead.
And one more thing, it's not easy to see here, but the grade of this with the new construction of this access road is probably about 2 feet lower than the access road. And so any enclosure or building that's built there will actually be a little less kind of obvious or noticeable from Wycliffe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good point.
What are those 2 blue squares?
All right. So this blue square is, and it's actually probably bigger than it actually would be, is the proposed trash location we're applying for. And then just for reference, this area, and the satellite photo shows it under construction, is the area of the trash enclosure for the McDonald's that was approved with their site
So
plan.
McDonald's that's their site right there.
Yep.
So you got dueling trash enclosures.
It's like the trash gateway.
Yeah. Love it.
So Peter went into this, but just to recap, we did look at a lot of other alternative locations for this dumpster. But we got a patio here, we've got a tree conservation here, we've got this power line here, we've got parking areas, and I think this area right here would probably be the best area in the parking lot, and I think it would eliminate, we counted maybe 16 parking spaces, and if you've ever been there at lunchtime, you know how precious those parking spaces are. So down in this location, right here where we propose, it might knock out 4. So it's really better from a parking standpoint as well. Plus, it's obvious, the obvious safety benefits of putting it there versus in the middle of this crazy traffic pattern there. And I want to get into the findings. I call Peter back up. And I may have Jose come up as well. Jose, you come up too, because some of these will speak to some of the landscaping. So I just want to go through the findings again and have you hear it from the horse's mouths, how we think this request satisfies the various findings. So first, the approved alternate is consistent with the intent of the landscaping screening regulations. And I think I'll just call on Jose to just reiterate about the landscaping.
Yeah, so that's correct. As described, we're going above and beyond what's actually required by the UDO by adding additional screening and basically understory plantings around the enclosure.
And Peter, about the intent of the mason, the
construction of
Yep.
it itself, yep.
Yep.
So the enclosure itself would be constructed of the same masonry as the building itself that's nearby. We'd utilize, different corbelling techniques with brick, like we'd have our typical running bond, but we'd also have soldier course, robot course, just to provide a little bit of visual interest with it, and then top it with a precast cap as is on the building.
Okay, so the second finding is the approved alternate does not substantially negatively impact the comfort and safety of pedestrians. And we've talked about that a little bit. And not only does it not negatively affect, it improves the safety because we're putting it in a way that's out of, the path of where most pedestrians will be walking. And so the trash emptying vehicle will interfere in conflict with the fewest pedestrians, we think, versus other possible locations. And, to the extent you consider the restaurant workers, their comfort and safety, it will be greatly improved by having a location that's closer than their current dumpster location that they're using, which is approximately a quarter-mile walk for them, dragging trash containers. The third finding is the approved alternate utilizes other architectural or landscaping treatments to create visual interest. Peter, you want to address that? You've sort of addressed it, but...
Oh, right, yeah. So, yeah, basically to reiterate what I already said, but, the construction of the wall will use masonry, we've had a really good masonry or mason on the construction of the building. They'll work on it again, provide running bonds, soldier courses, robot courses, precast caps. We want to make this a nice enclosure. We just don't want to have something there to conflict with the building. We want it to complement the building as best it can.
So finally, the approved alternate is considered equal to or better than the standard. And we think that's the case because you've heard Jose talk about the landscaping being, right now there's not really a requirement. He's proposing a pretty significant amount of landscaping there, and the same with the trash enclosure. And just to summarize this whole request, we feel like this proposed location best addresses safety because we tuck it away, efficiency because it's closer for the restaurants to empty their trash, and aesthetic concerns because there is some really nice landscaping. It does allow us to maintain a patio, which is going to, look great and be well used by the various customers of the restaurants. The dumpster will have a high-quality brick enclosure and be well landscaped. We've talked about that a lot. There's already a dumpster there, McDonald's. Yeah, we'll have those two dumpsters as you enter, but I think I don't know what the state of their landscaping and enclosure is. I can't speak on that, but ours will I think be, well landscaped and screened. We also sort of disagree on what the front of the building is. So if what we say is the front, this is actually in the side yard. We don't agree with the city, but that's our position. And then alternative locations would cause safety issues for pedestrians and restaurant workers. It would potentially disrupt the patio dining, would eliminate much needed parking, serving 8 restaurants and a grocery store, and there's a few other uses as well, and be a great distance from the restaurant served. And we believe that we have provided substantial material, competent evidence to addressed your required findings, and certainly happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any members of the public here, so I'll open it for commission questions.
One question, the Starbucks that's right across from this building, where did they, which dumpster do they use?
Peter, can you speak to that?
So they have a drive-through that goes through, this is an old bank, I think it was at one point, that goes through just one of the old tellers, and I think their dumpster enclosure is right there, which I think was recently renovated and has, I think, one trash enclosure within it, or one dumpster within it.
And then does the Chick-fil-A have their own dumpster too, or do they use the one behind the food line?
They have their own, it's probably a little off this map, if we have a zoomed out version of this. So right, yeah, sorry. Right there.
Okay, thanks.
I just got out of curiosity, why was the same standard not held in the McDonald's case?
Go ahead, tell them.
So they very cleverly, because we renovated an existing building, and so we reused the existing steel, the existing deck, and just put a new screen around it and greatly reduced the size of it. McDonald's completely demolished and rebuilt their building, very cleverly put it close enough to the road such that the angle of their front facade was just enough to get it behind, quote unquote, to the side of the building.
So it's kind of that curve in the road.
Yep.
They get the benefit of this line. We have the burden of this line.
Right. Because we renovated an existing building, maybe we should have built a little 5-foot, angle to the building or something to satisfy it, but.
I do have one more question. Just the operation of the trash truck coming in to pick up those dumpsters. It seems like they're going to have to back out about 150 feet before they get to a point where they can actually turn around. Am I looking at that correct?
Correct. I believe off the top of my head, I believe the Solid Waste Services guidelines have a maximum of 200 feet for a backing up off the top of my head. And to reiterate, the plan, when it was submitted for permit, was approved by Raleigh Solid Waste Services with the location shown.
And we just looked that up. It is 200 feet.
Is the
200.
is the max.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. And I just counted parking spaces, so I don't know that it's 150 feet for sure, but it's close.
I just want to make sure I understood you clearly earlier. They do currently have dumpster access around the back of the main shopping center, and the concern is the distance and.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that's great. I didn't hear you describe the doors on the enclosure. Just curious what they are.
So they would be a corrugated metal panel to match basically the canopy structure that's on the building, or not match exactly, but architecturally relate to the canopies that are on either side of the building. Be two large gates that.
And then my last question on that southeast corner is there. It looks like there's a large tree there. Is it still there, or in some of the aerial views?
Southeast corner, you're saying here?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's, I think at least 4 or 5, I think. So 1, 2, 3, some are larger than others, but those are definitely mature oak trees, I think, that easily hang over them. I know they had to cut a bit back because the leaves were getting in the roof after it.
But they've survived, and they're,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, they were protected during the renovation.
Any further questions from the commission? Applicant, anything further? Staff? Okay. We're going to close this hearing. So hearing no additional questions or presentation of relevant facts, the commission will now close the hearing and bring the matter to the table. As a reminder, this commission is tasked with deciding if, based off of the evidence presented, this proposal meets the applicable standards. This decision cannot be based on the personal preference of the commission members. Rather, it is based on standards and evidence. If based on its deliberations, the commission requires additional evidence, the commission will reopen the hearing. Okay. Casey, can you navigate to the findings? And then while we're doing that, I think Patrice needs to run in a second. So, Dave, I think you're elevated to voting member, if you're okay with that. Yeah, you're getting tagged in.
I'm sorry, you wanted to see the findings, right?
Yes.
So number 3, I would just say, like, I love to see the contrast between cases, and here they clearly did actually enhance the landscape to create visual interest. And so, I mean, whether or not, commissioners like how they did that or feel like they did it, but I really feel like they made a clear and compelling attempt to do that. So I appreciate that.
I think I personally, wish it could be anywhere else.
Yep.
But I think it is a significant, both functional and practical and safety issue to be carting trash that far across that parking lot, like they have to now. So having an enclosure somewhere near the structure makes sense. It helps a lot for me that it's an existing structure. And the only other viable spot I can imagine for putting it is that southeast corner, but I actually think the 3 or 4 mature trees there in the middle of that sea of asphalt and suburban architecture is actually probably one of the nicest parts of the site. So I'm glad they're not obliterating that to put the trash enclosure. So for me, it's in the best place it can be, and they have gone way above the requirements in attempting to screen it, which I appreciate. So.
This is just kind of, there's all kinds of great underground storage waste management solutions. We installed one on Wilmington Street in Raleigh years ago, and it got pulled out. But this would be a great place to have that, because then you wouldn't see any of this. But obviously, that's a side point.
So I just think that having it adjacent to the outside patio would give them impetus to make sure that the landscape is maintained, because they're not going to want to actually have people on the patio see this, an unsightly dumpster. So I think that will help maintain that it's an equal or better than the standard.
Yeah, I agree. From a plant selection perspective, I would just say, if the applicants were willing to not put camellias, the new plant hardiness map puts us in 8A, and this is a parking lot with heat island effect in full sun. I don't think camellias would last a year out here, but the other selections I think are generally viable.
I'll just say I don't like this. I think it does create a trash gateway, but I do appreciate to number 3 that, there have been significant landscape that's been added to mitigate. There's not really a lot to the site that helps this enclosure out.
Yeah. It's not much worse than cars, which is what you see now.
Okay. Any other thoughts from the commission?
Depends on what type of car, but.
I mean, I would say that they met all these findings pretty objectively in my mind.
Okay. Does someone want to make a motion?
Could we open it again, and could I just ask if it would be okay to condition that they replace the camellias with something that's more viable for 8A in a parking lot.
You're the only landscape architect. Wait.
No, we got
no,
Dave
Ca-
right here. He's in. What do you think?
I'm not sure. I was more worried about the nacella and mixing the two.
The nacella and the
I think
panicum?
it's bad as the
Dave,
city
can
is,
you
it's
speak in
bad
your?
enough that nacella's gonna enjoy.
Dave, can you use your microphone?
Oh, yeah. Is the environment tough enough for nacella to endure? That's like West Texas.
Yeah.
So it
Well, as
looks
long
super
as it's
cool.
not irrigated, right?
Well, what's going to make the other stuff survive then if it's not irrigated?
It's definitely not going to survive.
Right.
I hear you.
I don't want to specify any plants, but
No,
as
yeah.
a condition, I consider that and be confident in your selections as a collection.
Yeah.
Are going to survive.
Yeah.
I'm happy to open it up, Adam. What do you?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, we'll open it back up. Do you wanna
I think we can
respond to-
speak to the camellias if you still want us to
Sure,
address
yeah,
that.
or just whatever response you have, Jose. Yeah, happy to hear it.
Yeah, we're certainly open to switching the species to something else.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think then the condition is something like, ensure the water demands between the species match and the selections are appropriate for the,
I'm gonna guess that
zone.
staff is gonna want something much more specific.
Yeah, they're going to want it
Yeah, the
real
problem is that-
specific.
yeah, so I was-
Objective.
somebody has to be able to pick it up and apply it, so if it has any discretion in it, that's gonna be
Yeah.
difficult. So something a little bit more.
It is. It's tough. I would rather not make this continue on if that's the case, but yeah. What do you think?
I mean, can we
You want
just
to see it again? Because they can just come back and with something different and we can look at it, but that's not kind
Can we
of
just
nice
con-
for the
seems
process.
odd to
Yeah.
do their planting plan.
No,
for-
yeah.
It's close. The intent's there. Just
Yeah.
take it under advisement that everyone on this board is now watching it every time they go get coffee or cheeseburger and judging you personally.
Because if we approve this without conditions, that doesn't preclude them from being able to switch out the landscape.
Yeah, they can
right?
still
Right.
switch it out. Yeah.
True.
Okay, yeah, I would,
Now you've heard our concerns and
Yeah.
can take those back for thought.
I think that's good enough for me. Is that good enough for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the
Okay.
balance, I think they made the best choices that they can overall.
okay, we're gonna close the hearing again. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Travia? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none.
Thank you very much.
The commission's written decision will be adopted when the minutes of this meeting are adopted, and the written decision will be provided to the applicant and other parties with right to such notice following adoption of the decision. Okay, and with that, we've now wrapped up our QJ portions of our agenda. I'll invite Casey back up. Minutes, oh, yes. We have minutes to approve. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I reviewed the 4-4 minutes and I don't see any errors and would make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
You have two sets of minutes on your agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, so Adam.
I was just moving to approve the first one because I haven't read the other one.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I guess there's a motion and a second. So all those in favor of passing the 4-4 minutes? Aye. Any opposed? None. All right. And then the March 14th minutes. Is it-
I'll make a motion to approve the March 14th minutes as written.
Is there a second? I'll second, Chris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, seeing none. Now, Casey.
The next item on the agenda is the annual report. I don't have any slides or anything to share with you for that, but I sent out the email letting you know that it was in board docs yesterday, hoping that you'd have a few minutes to take a look at it so you guys can discuss it. And if you're good with it, approve it. If you want to make some changes, we can do that. But we do need to approve the annual report. If not tonight, then at the 2 weeks from now at that meeting, because it is scheduled for Will to present it to City Council at their June 4th meeting.
So I think it looks
So hopefully
great.
you can approve it tonight, but we have a little bit of time if there's something y'all want to change in it, so.
I think it
And
looks.
thank you to Will for helping with that.
I think it looks great. Good job. Good job, Will. I did have a couple comments that I sent to Casey earlier tonight, and I figure we could just talk about them right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
So like the name of the report, this is semantics, but it's the 2023 annual report, which technically covers into this year, right? Like,
No, it's the calendar year 2023 and the FY 25 work plan, so it has a gap of 2024 till now.
okay. So, and it recaps some stuff from 2024 in it.
By proxy, yes, just because it's awkward not to mention
All right, if
some
you
things.
guys are all right with that, and if that's the way it should read, I'm fine with it.
If you guys can come up
is
with a better
confusing.
way to try to do it,
A good
I'm open
example
to
of
it, but-
that is, this is the first meeting where we are the Design Review Commission. So this is the, like, really the 2023 annual report of the Appearance Commission and the FY 25 work plan of the Design Review Commission.
Yeah. There's like 6 months missing
Yeah.
here.
I mean,
just
you could just
rolling
call
with
it the 23-24 annual report,
I don't
right?
think that is our doing, that's, I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
related to
fine.
statute, right? In terms of.
I'm sorry?
That's related to statute in terms of we're required to deliver or do we have to do it this way?
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let Catherine check, but I don't think
At
it
one-
specifies that it has to be a calendar year or fiscal year, but like your budget and everything is based on the fiscal year.
Right. I think there's a piece of this that is a relic of the fact that we are required to give a report to council by April 15th every year.
Yep, okay, here's what it says, and you're the only board that has this, I don't know why. Okay, shall no later than April 15 of each year submit a report of its activities, a statement of expenditures to date for the current fiscal year, and its requested budget for the next fiscal year. So it's an annual report, but when it comes to the money, it says fiscal year.
And Casey put a note in our last, I guess it was last manager's update.
Yes, so.
To get
so
to
we
that,
did
yeah.
a little, like, one-page abridged report to meet the requirement to provide that to council by the 15th. I think hopefully we can, we're doing it a little bit earlier than we did last year, and hopefully next year we can do it a little bit earlier, so we don't have to do that abridged report in addition to the full report, right? So the goal would be to have the full report done and ready by the April 15th deadline, so that we're not having to do both. But that's kind of how we've met that statutory requirement, but also still been able to do the full report that you guys have been doing.
Okay. You guys satisfied on semantics there? Yeah. Okay. What
And
other?
then the only other thing was a grammatical thing on page 3, which I don't know that we need to.
Thank you for catching
Get
that.
into.
We will get that fixed. Yeah. I think if there's clerical things, I think we can make edits from here, but, did anyone have a chance to look at the work plan before today? Or the report and work plan? Any comments, questions? Yeah, obviously there's a graph in there in terms of the declining caseload that we've seen over the past year. And then we just had a retreat where Casey presented that graph as well as graphs on kind of the nature of the requests that we've been receiving. And so that's reflected in the report. For the most part, I carried forward some of our previous recommendations that we haven't, the similar recommendation to what we've previously done in terms of transparency, driveway. We haven't seen driveway spacing as much recently, but I anticipate we will see that again, given that it was a previous issue, particularly in the downtown context. Anything else that you feel like is missing from a trends perspective or things that we might want to make a recommendation out on?
The only thing I'll say, I don't know how long you'll have to present to council. I know when I did it, I had 5 minutes, or less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so you had something in here, I can't remember where it was, I can't find it, but it was about maybe involving some legacy appearance commission members to create a new group that can review some more design-related things. I might focus on that when you talk to them.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of material, and if we really want them to act on that and create something.
Is that the early review panel?
Yeah, yes. That is in here. I'd have to think about where it is in here, but yes, there's a,
Is that a thing that we're still doing?
I think the recommendation potentially still stands of
Yeah.
basically acknowledging the fact that because we're QJ, we see projects so late in the game that
Yeah.
we're not able to fill a function that the previous structure of the commission was able to, of a more collaborative design piece.
Totally agree.
And I think this will be the third time they hear that.
Yeah, that's true. So I'll just add to that. You know, in my experience with this annual report and work plan, more than what's in the annual report and work plan, the what is presented in that 5 minutes is really important, and how it's presented, and if there are any specific requests associated with the annual report and work plan. I think that, you know, I don't know if you have an idea of what you're going to present, or
I
if
think
there's
that's
any
right.
ask, but it's like, you know, yes, this is important, but the most important thing is whatever we say when we get up and talk about it.
No, I think I gave you that feedback last time, is if you're going to make a recommendation, you should just boil it down to, these are the two requests that we would make of council.
Yeah.
So, with that said, what are those things
Yeah.
in y'all's mind?
Yeah. Yeah, do you have any feelings, like, about what those might be? Or anybody else? I mean, anybody can. This is generally the one window in the year where we have public face to the council to ask for anything, tell them about any of our concerns, celebrate anything. You know, I mean, if we're talking about kind of spotlighting successes, I would say our legacy projects and the Sir Walter Raleigh Awards have continued to be really successful, and we are, you know, that takes work every year by staff and the commission.
So currently, there's a recommendation in there about considering under transparency of your different transparency requirements based on the project's type. That's not a recommendation I feel uber strongly about, particularly because that's a much more niche, maybe staff level thing to consider. And then there's a recommendation related to driveway spacing that, you know, again, particularly in an urban context, whether or not that exact requirements should be applied or not. And then, yes, there is a recommendation in here about some type of early or review, potentially using previous alumni of the commission as a means to get around the fact that we can't have ex parte communication about cases that may come. Yeah, there could be a potential request made of, you know, we feel like these legacy projects are really high value for the amount of money that we utilize, and ask for additional funds. I'm not necessarily advocating for that, or
When are you presenting?
June 4th meeting, correct?
Which will be after their,
I feel like the budgets are pretty well baked at that point.
Yeah, yes,
I mean, not
the
obviously
annual
not,
budget.
but yeah.
You could do a request from, you know, council's line or something like that as a different means of coming at that. But
I don't
Or we could
actually
note
think
it
that's a
for
bad
next year.
idea at some point. Maybe we tee it up this year and ask for it next year or something like that.
Tee it up this year.
Just as in kind of helping them see the valuable work that's being done with legacy projects. That's all.
And then, you know, yeah, certainly next year, we could make a different budget request or request funds from some other line, but.
I guess it depends on how much increase or like what percentage are we really gonna ask and have that number. Maybe if it's not very significant, then maybe it is an ask versus like pushing it to next year, but.
So yeah, quick edification, our budget's a little obscure. We have $25,000 that's allocated for this Walter Raleigh Awards. And so essentially with that program, any sponsorship dollars we bring in more or less goes to legacy projects in terms of, that $25,000 pretty closely covers the actual cost of the event. So when we bring in additional sponsorship, that can go directly to some of that legacy. And that's where this legacy project originally grew out of, was that the commission had leftover funds from the Sir Walter Raleigh Awards. And we got a $10,000 general operation budget. The biggest piece of that is new name tents and our annual retreat, which is, one meal for the commission and guests. So there's usually a significant portion of that that's available. So we end up netting roughly about 10,000 per year, at least on average we have the last couple of years for the legacy funds. Certainly been able to use that very effectively and achieve some really high-profile work for that amount of money. It's kind of crazy how much we've been able to achieve with that. But so I'm very open to thoughts from the commission on that.
Yeah, I think if we don't have a specific ask right now, maybe just plant a seed.
I like that.
Any other items there before?
What was the other one? I had another one.
While you're thinking about that.
Oh, storage facilities.
Yeah. Okay. We don't want to see them anymore?
Been reviewing over and over again.
Abolishing them?
I mean, I don't know.
We have
their own zoning.
Right, we've discussed whether or not we wanted to recommend some change with regards to storage facilities, but we have also recognized that it's probably appropriate for them to come to this body, given their subjective nature.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I feel like we've got these like two rote tools of landscape and transparency and like, it's kind of like, are these the only ways we can make a building look good? I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe a bigger discussion, but we end up seeing really, I mean, the kind of treatments that we're seeing are just kind of, I'm just kind of like, is this what we're asking? Do they feel like this is what we want them to present to us? Because it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely an element of that. You see it. We've seen it in the last 2 or 3 cases where they present. These are the ones you've approved, and they clearly are acknowledging and responding to that. So I appreciate, Adam, what you do and others do of like, for future reference, here's a note of what we would like to see to be helpful here, because there are attorneys and others who watch and
yeah.
take note.
I know. So I don't know at this point in time if we have any real thing that we want to say other than we've seen quite a lot of these and they seem to be like an opportunity for us to create a better condition. But we're not proposing how that happens. I don't know if we need to say anything.
Okay.
What do you guys think? What's that?
This is an area that needs to be studied, needs more study.
Yeah, I'm happy to report out on the fact that we see a significant number of these come through, and they continue to be challenging for the commission to be able to weigh on based off of the code and the intent.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the report and
Yeah.
with Chris's edits.
Yes. That's
Just the one clerical one, right?
Yeah, grammatic one on page 3.
Okay.
I'll move to approve it.
Second.
Second from Kyle. Any further questions or thoughts?
No, really, nice job.
Awesome. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none? Thanks. All right, that brings us to Sir Walter.
Okay, I have a few bits of information and updates for you guys. Too many screens. So, nominations for the awards are being accepted now through May 12th. As of this afternoon, after I complete the side, we have 3 nominations, which is a little bit concerning. We normally get a big flurry towards the end, but but we usually see a decent trickle throughout. So this is my plug to please, please, please promote it in your networks, in any, whatever way you see fit to help generate some additional nominations.
Is that an industry issue? Trying to get big stuff that's come online.
I mean, we're doing it significantly earlier than we've done it previously, so if there's institutional memory of when you need to apply for awards, there's that.
You mean, are there projects out there that exist?
Yeah, is the number going down just because there's a big decrease in delivery of projects?
Yeah, I feel like it's
I think we're
early,
still
too
in
early
the
for
the
that.
construction, and that might be an issue next year.
Because it can be a project, the project has to be built, right, in the last 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
So, maybe, but it seems like I could see that in like another year or 2 or 3, really, like, having trouble finding nominations.
I know the AIA Triangle put it in their Friday facts.
Okay.
For the last few weeks.
Oh, nice.
It's helpful.
Did you make that happen?
I didn't, but I forwarded it to the AIA executive director, and she said, hey, the state executive director already forwarded it to me.
Oh,
so we've been
nice.
including it.
Not
Maybe
because of
people
you.
are just working on their
Not because of you.
nominations and just haven't submitted them yet.
No, it's certainly concerning that.
Yeah.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
Is there like, can we get it to ASLA too, or?
Yeah.
Can, I'm looking at you guys, can one of you guys get it to the ASLA? Looks like that's you, Dave.
I can do it.
So
I can do
Casey
it.
has done a good job of sending materials of like the call for nominations and whatnot, and so.
Yeah, I've sent out what we've created. So we did the initial blast out at the beginning of the call, and communications recently like reposted it like on social media and things. I think they're going to try to do additional push through the city channels to be able to do that. But obviously, there's different audiences for different places. So.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say about ASLA is we don't have like a triangle chapter really. We have North Carolina ASLA, and that's probably not appropriate to like. I mean, I guess we could
Float
send
it
it.
out there?
Yeah, we could
I mean,
float
we've
it out
got
there.
statewide practitioners.
You don't have like
Yeah.
a local listserv or anything?
We're just
are in a
we're
social
just
bunch.
lowly landscape architects. There's only like 10 of us.
The,
I would be good. I don't think that. Oh, we've tried. ULI won't advertise for anybody else. They're really strict about it. They've got like a policy.
I'll ask. I'll see that. What about University, NC State?
I sent out a whole bunch of stuff. I can send out more.
I think
Just 'cause so
two
many
of the
folks
3
locally have that.
nominations we've gotten so far are NC State projects.
Okay, interesting, interesting.
2 of the 3, yeah.
So
If I'm remembering
your messages are getting out there. They're just not getting outside of the university. Maybe intentionally or not, I don't know. In the scenario where May 12th comes around, which is next week, and we don't feel like we have enough submissions, what are our options?
We have built in up to a 1-week extension if we need it, which
We're
really
definitely gonna
hoping we
need
don't
it.
have to, but it sounds like we might. But that's it, because then I have to compile everything. The jury deliberation is on the 5th, so it can get to council. So
Well, I would just say if we don't have enough if we don't have enough, then like, none of that matters, right? Like so we may just have to. But
State design school coronation ceremony.
but can everybody? I think can everybody commit to in the next day or 2 sending out something to your network and just trying to really get this message out? And I just want to make sure everybody got Casey's email with the information that you might use with the links and stuff like that, just to make it easy.
I believe there's a
Shouldn't
graphic.
take more than
I'm sorry?
20 minutes.
I believe there's a graphic that can be used for like LinkedIn or something if that's your
Yeah.
preference.
yeah.
Thank you all.
And does that include the save the date for the? Have we done the save the date for the actual?
No, not yet.
Okay, but the date is set.
Yes.
Is that publicized anywhere?
No, not yet.
October, something.
September 25th.
Way off. September 25th.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that,
It's a Wednesday.
I mean, obviously we talk about it here, so it's public.
Yes, we
Can
haven't
that be
like
mentioned in
advertising
what
it.
we're, you know?
It's not secret, it's
Okay.
just, yeah.
Great.
We're just still early in the planning process, or relatively early in the planning process.
Well, obviously if you win an award, you hopefully are showing up too, so.
Oh, somebody.
We do
who's-
communicate that to them, like, once the winners have been selected, we do communicate to them to begin with, like, at the beginning.
So one easy thing that we could do, I think, don't we have a list of all of the previous winners?
We do.
We could easily put
Yeah.
them in an email and send them the notice and say, hey, you've won this before, win it again.
Yeah, that, just exactly that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Could I send you guys the spreadsheet that has that? I feel like sometimes the message is received better when it comes from like a colleague
That's fine.
in the field.
Happy to do that.
That's some expert delegation there, Casey.
I think it's true, though.
As much as you-
Sometimes you get stuff from the city and people are like, you know,
Yeah, no, so as much as you can scrape backwards in time, that's helpful. More firms that we can get to. The city's channels, I want to say that this has been on, I know it's been in the email, the city has a lot of email channels, but has
I
it been on
believe-
city social media?
it's on the Raleigh Planning social media.
There's a Raleigh planning one, I don't know.
Yeah,
that I follow that
it's
one.
literally Raleigh Planning.
Okay.
At Raleigh Planning.
They announced our new
I think
name
we've
yesterday.
tried to share it like to other departments so that they can, you know, hopefully choose to share it through their accounts as well and with, you know, just with their networks and everything. I believe the email list for like the Gov delivery emails that come out from the city is pretty robust. So,
Okay.
yeah.
The only other one I can think of, it's the like, what's the design group or the development group?
Urban
that's been
Projects Group?
No, not that, the more advisory group that's been meeting. TSAC. Can we send it out to them as well? Development Services Advisory Council or?
Is that
right?
the text change committee?
No, this is a group of, a number of developers and others who've been helping to shepherd some changes through the city over the last couple of years.
I can ask about that.
Okay.
It was in the Plan Dev Department newsletter at the end of March.
I think the key item here is we're a week away from,
Yes. No, but, well, I'm just saying, like, some
Yep.
of the same people saw it then, but yes, I get your point.
Cool.
I will ask about if we can send it out to the DSAC list.
okay. Anything with regards to the event or planning the event that we need to touch on tonight?
Yes. So I just wanted to bring to your attention that the call for artists is going to start soon. It runs May 13th through June 9th. So just kind of, if you have suggestions or you have an idea of like who to include in the network of sharing that information, please share that.
Raleigh Arts.
Yes, yeah,
Th-
they're on
great,
the list.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
and
I
so-
saw their newsletter come and I thought I was like scrolling. I was like, am I gonna see the nope? But
Yeah.
it just hasn't been out yet.
We just got
Yeah.
Okay.
270 artists submitted for the open call to paint the streeteries.
Nice.
270. Isn't that
Wow.
crazy?
Keep that list.
Yeah, so if we can get it in the arts beat, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. So I would just,
The park
no,
list.
this is for all streeteries downtown. This is nothing to do with Commerce Place, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Can you remind me how much the Sir Walter artist is compensated or provided
there's
with?
a $1,000 honorarium.
Okay.
And that, not all of that goes to the winner, right? We provide some to the finalists, or do we change that?
No, the $1,000 goes to the selected artist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cutthroat.
We'll ask them to design that much.
So yeah,
but
just keep that in mind when the like social media graphics and information is prepared by communications, like around the May 13th date. I'll send you guys another email with the information so that you can, if you want to use that to help spread the word, you'll have that. And then this slide is really just to highlight kind of where we're at and the things that are coming up, because we're we're at the beginning of the flurry of like a lot of stuff happening for planning. So this month, we'll be gathering quotes from the big vendors, which would be event planning and catering, because those both require contracts. June 5th is a jury deliberation to select the winning projects. So far, we have 1 of 2 invited guest jurors confirmed.
Who hasn't confirmed?
Sarah.
Sarah Glee Queen, she confirmed?
Yes, she
Who
confirmed.
hasn't confirmed?
I don't remember the other name. I think Matt reached out.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe did Saravia? Did you? It was Matt, I
No,
think.
it was
Yeah.
Matt to both of them, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry, I don't have I forgot my phone, so I just don't have any information on hand today.
And then June 18th is when the jury selections will go to council during closed section for them to confirm the winners. At the June 20th commission meeting, you'll select which artists you want to work with. And then at the July 10th meeting is when the artists will come back with their draft designs for you guys to kind of pick which direction you want them to go for the final certificate. And then just the last thing, and we don't have to make any decisions about this, but I want you guys to be thinking about it. So last year we did those big event posters. We had 3 for the historic landmarks, as well as 3 related to legacy projects. We're anticipating 1 historic landmark recipient this year. So assuming everyone's interested in doing those type of boards again, we'd have 1 for that. We could potentially have 1 for each of the legacy projects. Something else. But I wanted to kind of get you guys thinking about it, because if there is something different than that you guys want to do, now's the time to be thinking about it and making decisions soon about it so that we can kind of get it in the queue to try to accomplish it before the event.
I like this play call. I thought that worked really well last year.
Maybe we can.
You guys did a really good job last year. I know Combs did a
I'll
lot
let
of that.
Allison know, because she did a lot of that.
Yeah, it's gotten better every year. Y'all are doing great. Maybe we can wheel over one of the skate park shade structures into the building. Really make an impact.
And that's all that I had. So again, if like whether it's related to poster boards or whatever else for the event, if there's an idea that you're thinking the commission might be wanting to do for the year or for this year, now is the time to kind of discuss it and make a decision within like the next month or so that we can actually have time to try and execute it before the event. So that is all I had for Sir Walter.
Okay. And then
the band, that was the only thing I thought of there. Do we, I mean, it's pretty early, but do we want
Yeah,
to
you
reach out
don't need
to
to
them?
decide right now, but you know, like June.
We did Al Strong
July.
last time.
Yes. Yeah, you did Al Strong
So we're
last year.
up for, gosh, I always forget their name.
Peter and the Wolves.
Peter Lamb
Peter
and the
Lamb
Wolves.
and the Wolves, yeah.
Or someone new. It's fine. Both of them are great, though, honestly.
There's other things to meddle with the event. I think that part is working well.
Just the alternating
Yeah.
back and forth. Yeah, all right, cool.
Is there a theme or is there a
David
genre
Brothers.
that, for the band, or just?
Is there a,
Is it a genre for the band, or does it matter?
No, just
we're-
upbeat, kind of.
I should say, we're extremely, if you've got a band that you want to suggest, would love to hear it, but
I just have a friend in a band, so I'm just curious, like, what's the protocol? I don't know how wild they are. That's why I'm like, what is?
how good of a friend is
Death
this?
metal.
Yeah. I mean, it's a awards program, so.
Yeah.
Al
You
Strong
check
does,
out
like,
Al Strong
jazz.
and Peter Lamb and the Wolves. If you get any vibes from them and you're like, this is actually really similar and awesome, you're totally welcome to propose them. I think,
They're a
wide open.
what,
We're
a
wide open.
five-piece band?
You can't.
Both of
Al
them?
Strong is however many people
Okay,
show up.
sorry.
I think it's a quintet, but it's actually just whoever shows up. But it's great every time. It's just like 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people. Or were you talking about Peter Lamb?
No, I didn't matter. I was just trying to give context. We did have our quarterly meeting with Councilor Fort, our liaison to Appearance Commission, or Design Review Commission. So
did confirm that she's got it on her calendar this year. And trying to think if there's anything else from that meeting that, name change obviously came up. Casey, do you know what the status of the text change is for the streetscape plan?
I haven't looked that up recently. Let me see if I
we
can
do
pull
have
it up
two
on my computer.
vacancies. That is one thing that we talked about.
Do we currently have 2 vacancies, or do we only have?
I think technically we have 0, but Martha's term is expiring. So
Well,
there'll
the
be an
website says 2, we should fix that.
It might, Catherine might not be showing up on the website yet, potentially. I could be getting that wrong, but it'll end, even though with just Martha leaving, it'll probably create 2 appointments, because usually, since she's a regular member, usually an alternate gets elevated to a regular member. So that's an appointment, and then a new appointment for the.
So Martha's
That
term
did seem
ends
like a lot.
in May this month, and then Megan's term ends in June. So we'll follow up with Megan and see if she intends to continue. So we do have, we're always crowdsourcing. If you guys have other folks in the community that you would recommend, would love to, and that's something we talked about with, Counselor Ford, is if we could, help field folks, we would love to do so, just to help people come to the commission with a understanding of the work and the time commitment and all of that stuff. So there was recently, council requested attendance numbers for the commission, as well as other commissions again recently. That report did not look great for the commission, I will say that. I think it was Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment, as well as design review. And we definitely had the worst attendance of that group.
Yeah. I think that there's been some pretty consistent attendance issues. There's kind of like becoming distinct groups that are like really poor attendance and much better attendance. It wasn't always like that. And I don't know if anybody has any thoughts about that, but I certainly struggled with that during my chairship of how do we deal with this in a way that gets us where we want to be. Certainly, there are some things that we have the power to do. We've never done that, but
Yeah.
anybody's got any thoughts?
So I think council's expectation is, 75%, but folks who are able to make 75% of meetings, that's what their request was in terms of seeing commissioners below 75%. So that's certainly the hope. And then, I think that the chair has the ability to remove someone if you've missed 3 consecutive meetings. I don't think we've ever exercised that. I don't really intend to. I'd rather just come to a mutual agreement.
Yeah.
But certainly if, we're getting below 50%, if anyone's getting below 50%, then that's, becomes pretty challenging, obviously. So probably enough said there, and I can.
Are you still doing tracking?
Yeah, so I can distribute an updated attendance just so you guys can see it. And obviously, our philosophy has been, let's cancel meetings where we can cancel meetings just to preserve everyone's time efficiency here. But days like today, when we have QJ, we've got an important role to fill. So
yeah, it's a good meeting.
Speaking of that, mid-May meeting, do we have items that we need to attend to in mid-May?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So with that, unless anyone has any, items they'd like to bring up in mid-May, I'd say let's plan to cancel the mid-May meeting, and then we'll come back for the first meeting of June for our next meeting. And I'm trusting, Casey, that you're not going to need any, the nominations will close. If the nominations close and we need to pull the trigger on that extra week, let's pull the trigger on that extra week. And we can do that via email here to get the word out, but I don't know that we need to meet mid-month.
I would just
What do we
say
have for June?
4, 5, because you just continued one.
Oh,
so
that's
5.
exciting.
So you're going to have a big agenda at June.
Okay, well,
But do plan to meet on the second meeting in June, because that's when you'll be reviewing the artist portfolio submission. So just,
the second meeting of June.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll pencil in the first meeting of June, everyone, because we'll need folks. We've been able to get away with folks leaving it, early or arriving late, but
when we've got a 4-case agenda, it can go longer.
Yeah.
Casey, can you remind me the dates for the 2 meetings in June?
June 6th is the QJ meeting, and June 20th is the non-QJ meeting, where you'll be reviewing the artists. And I did just look up the streetscapes text change, TC 623, and it looks like it's going to council on May 21st.
Great, because I put that in the work plan in a ambiguous, or in the report in a semi-ambiguous way, depending on how they take action on it.
That's
Okay.
all that I have for you guys.
Awesome. And I guess last item, unless anyone else have anything else, we'll take a second to introduce our new commissioner. Catherine, if you would, introduce yourself.
Catherine McPherson, lived here in Raleigh for 30-plus years, went to College of Design way back in the 80s. Have a degree in landscape architecture. Have worked in various mainly civil firms as a landscape architect of record on there. And really looking forward to being part of the design review commission.
Good to know.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Let's just get on the line of, name who you are, what you do, for Catherine's benefit.
Yeah, I'm Dave Tom's very recent addition, working with Adams as a landscape architect.
I'm Chris Roberts. I'm an architect.
Adam Walters, landscape architect.
Will Gaskins, your current chair, and I work for Downtown Raleigh Alliance. I'm more of a planner than a landscape architect or an architect.
And Jason Dale, I'm an architect.
I'm Kat Schmidt. I'm actually in marketing and at the School of Government at UNC.
Kyle Springer, also an architect.
Shravya Suridevara, I'm a traffic engineer.
Matt McGregor, I'm a planner for the comp planning department, and I also take the notes.
You're the clerk.
The clerk.
You got a clerk duty today. You got a exhibit handed to
Yeah.
you. We had a big discussion.
Yes, Catherine, thank you for handling QJ today. You had 3 people you trained today, is that right?
Yes.
So that was really smooth. I remember last year there was like a 5-month period where a couple of the new commissioners didn't get trained or something right when we were turning over or something like that.
It's hit or miss. Sometimes the stars align and we can get everybody trained really quickly, and sometimes it takes a minute. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sweet. Well, barring anything else, I think that's all we have for the agenda. So we are adjourned.